Alrighty, well, hi everyone. We are doing another interview today with me. Well, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Ryan Mize. I was in Professor Eddie Boucher's class last semester. I'm a major in psychology. I have a minor in cognitive science and Spanish. And yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Oh yeah, that's a good introduction. What was the
Okay.
no, what was the main reason why you took the ISS course?
Um, yeah, well, actually, um, the main reason why I took the course was like, I don't know, I'm pretty particular about all of my classes. And I spend like I last year I was planning my senior year schedule. I'm still revising it, and I want to make sure I get my professors right and the classes right and all that. And I actually kind of stumbled onto his on accident, I think. I but in looking into it afterwards, it it seemed like it was a I don't know, pretty interesting class, and um, there wasn't any really huge reason though why I took it other than just out of the interest and time constraints or whatever. But yeah.
Cool. So when you read the syllabus for the class and found out that most of your grade depended on this film, how did you feel about that?
Um, Indifferent. I don't know. I these aren't yeah I don't know. These aren't questions that I've actually thought about. I don't know.
That's why we're doing it. No, just kidding.
Yeah. uh, I I didn't I mean, I kind of just thought like, sometimes classes will have an exam where there's 30% or 40% of the final grade. But I guess kind of thinking back on it, I mean, there was almost like, okay, we have over half the class to create this documentary. That's most of our grade. And that's very different from like the conventional high stakes final exam where I've never been very good at those exams. So um, kind of happy and excited, I guess, that this was something new and different to try.
That's good. Well, good. I'm glad. We're glad.
Yeah, no,
um,
it was a good course. I really liked it.
as of right now, the class is set up to where there are groups and there's peer groups, and each student is individually doing their own film. But last semester, when you were in the class, you had the opportunity to kind of choose what you want to do.
Mhm.
You want to tell them, like, did you work in a group, or not? How would you do?
Yeah, so I thought about this for probably a solid week. I think I was late in submitting if I wanted to be in a group or not because of it. And I get how working in a group can be I don't know, you can learn really important skills working in a group and all that, but I just thought like with all the restrictions with COVID and everything, I mean even without COVID, if we were in person doing a documentary or creating something like this, I always know that there's always one person that takes up about 60% of the project, and then someone kind of takes another 30%, and then there's that one other person that kind of just falls back. And I mean, unless all of them are contributing, I mean, unless you have the perfect group and everyone's contributing perfectly, I mean, eh, I just thought that the best outcome for me as far as my grade and interest goes would be just to work alone. So and I'm very glad that I did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this seems pretty reasonable. But so you were the student who took forever to. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm kidding. So what were some of the challenges that you did face while taking the course, if you remember?
Gosh, yeah. Well, as far as the final project goes, everything that could have gone wrong like went wrong for me making that documentary. I at first it was hard to pick a topic. I didn't know if I should pick something that I was, passionate about and relate it to material craft or material culture, or if I should just pick something like, I don't know, my glasses, for instance, that are made in Japan or something, and I could do that and it would be boring and I wouldn't be interested in it. So that was the first challenge, I guess, was picking something that I was interested in. But oh, all right, my light has been out. Yeah, I'm just a little okay. That was the first challenge, and then because I was working alone, the challenges of first doing all of the research, then writing the script and shooting it and then editing it and then reshooting it and then having to trash everything, and that was pretty tough too, I would say. But one thing I liked about the course and its challenges was like we weren't, because I took a lot of risks. In like doing this documentary, I contacted I don't know how many people who had written, like from musicians to professors to authors to like the co-host of CBS This Morning. Like so many people about this project, and I really like spread myself thin, but I wasn't really penalized on any of my creative risks, so I really appreciated that, whenever I would submit like the weekly participation task. And maybe I don't know, I wasn't right on the nose with what we were learning that week, but I would always receive feedback on, okay, well, maybe you should do this or that, or this wasn't quite to our standards. And, it allowed me the chance to go back and redo it. So, I mean, out of the challenges that there were in the course, I mean, there was definitely the support systems built up so that I wasn't, in the weeds.
That's good. Good. Glad to hear that you had it. But so do you believe then that anyone is capable of taking this class? Not only taking this class, but being successful in it as well?
Definitely. Yeah. And I think because of, I think you get out what you put in with this course. You're not tested on your ability to memorize a bunch of bullet points from a lecture or chapters of a book. It's just your understanding and application of the course material that we've been taught. So if you can do that successfully, then I think you'll definitely have success in the course.
Was there anything that you learned when it comes to storytelling, or?
Yeah. Actually, when I interviewed the CBS co-anchor, whatever, Tony DeCopel, I actually interviewed him for advice on how do I take, because I read one of his articles and it was about the topic that I wanted to do. And he seemed to sum up this super complicated topic into like 5 pages. And it was like entertaining. And so I asked him for his advice, and what I kind of got out of it was how I structured how I went about doing this documentary. And in doing so, I learned that like you shouldn't bite off more than you can chew. Like in definitely taking the topic, like mine was the cultural and psychological effects of smartphone usage. And instead of trying to tackle all of them, maybe just focus on 1 or 2 and diving deep into that, because quality is definitely better than quantity when you have to make a 10-minute documentary. Which that was the, I think, most difficult thing in learning when doing this, because I no matter how I kind of tried to shorten my documentary, I was always a bit long. Um, but I also learned, again, how to interview people, because I probably sent out like 9 different cold emails to these, I don't know, professors or authors or whatever. And so I learned something that it didn't really necessarily relate to the class, but it was like a general life skill that was really beneficial. And by the end of it, I actually started getting more responses because I found out, oh, hey, this worked and that didn't. So that was good. But I mean, nothing else really comes to mind right now.
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty that was a pretty impressive answer. So,
Oh, okay.
do you? So then, I mean, next question was going to be about like, do you believe storytelling is important? Which I mean, you kind of sound like you know from what your answer you kind of said so. But do you believe like it's a good use of time? Like, how do you feel about just storytelling in general? Like, I know you learned a lot, but how do you feel since?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely, you have to flex the creative muscle, in your mind. That's for sure. And I feel like we don't really get to do that a whole lot in school. So it's whenever I get the opportunity, I like to really lunge into it, because I don't really think of myself as a very creative person at all. Um, but being able to kind of practice it in the form of storytelling, it's just a different mode of being able to convey thoughts, feelings, information, whatever. And especially like the storytelling in the form of documentary, um, that that medium to project this information from, to me, I kind of in I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed the process because it was kind of new. I'd done it a little bit in high school, but it was definitely uncomfortable. That's for sure. But again, I think I learned a lot in the process of doing so. So I don't know if that answered your question, actually.
Like
Did it?
did it mean like it put you out of your comfort zone a little bit, or is that yeah?
Yeah, I think so, because there was that, I mean, criteria for the documentary, for the story that we had to tell, and it was pretty, I mean, basic criteria. If someone wanted to make the documentary, they could have done it in a weekend, but I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, but it was possible. But it also allowed you the creative freedom to it, get uncomfortable like I did, and take these risks, and maybe make something that you're proud of. So
Yeah, that was cool. Does this course, so do you think this course like differs from any other classes you've taken at MSU so far? And if so, like in what way?
um yes, yeah, it definitely differs. I think in the way that it's structured, and I think the quality put into the structure of the course is very different, because many of the classes I've taken, it seems like the professors taught the same thing for a decade now, and they know exactly what they're looking for, and they have, and it seems pretty, I don't know, just generic cookie cutter. There's always going to be that 20% that fails, and the 10% that actually does okay in the class. And through, I don't know, like maybe 2 big essays, 1 big final. But this class wasn't really like that at all. I mean, we had the class lectures, and then the readings and the quizzes kind of covered our understanding of what that was. And then we had the participation assignments, which I really like that, because it not only tested our understanding of what we learned, but then also how can we apply it to things that we know. So it was like, I feel like that just really cemented what we learned into our understanding. so that part of the setup, I mean, I haven't had a class like that before. And then also the documentary aspect, the storytelling, is even further from anything that I've ever taken, any class. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just so, yeah, it is just so different from the average class taught. I did also like the interdisciplinary. I mean, it's an interdisciplinary course, but I like that, how Professor Boucher like integrated that into the course material. And in the documentary itself, we had to make it not only about that specific material culture or whatever we were doing, but also integrate something else. And I integrated my major into it, and that was pretty interesting. I liked that about it too. But no, in a lot of ways, very different from normal courses. Yeah, like in the memorization, and I don't know. Yeah.
So if you had the opportunity to take a class like this again, would you? Or
I mean, it was a lot of work and a lot of pressure.
what motivated you then to want to really do well in this project? Because I mean, it sounded like you reached out to a bunch of people. Like, what made you go that extra mile?
Yeah. Well, I think it was I mean, we had the ability to actually like pick the thing that we wanted to do the documentary on. We got to pick the topic. And I went back and forth on pick something that interested me or pick something to just get the grade. And I thankfully picked something that interested me. And that interest, when I kind of, it had to do with like smartphones and smartphone addiction. And that had to do with my major and my interest in studying addiction. And then I was able to integrate, my psychology major with the material culture and what we learned in that course. And it was interesting in like as I was doing the documentary, watching it evolve from the very first part of it where I like, here's my basic purpose for doing it. Here's how I kind of want it to be structured, whatever. By the time I was done, it was nothing like my initial thoughts. And I just lost my train of thought. What was the question?
It was just about like what motivated you to,
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah. It was just because like that interest that I had turned into like a kind of like a passion. And then I actually ended up like working on like a Friday or Saturday night, like instead of like going out or doing something, which I usually go out and hang out with my friends. I was home, working on this documentary, writing the script, and it started to kind of consume my interest, and it was fun but challenging at the same time. So but I think that's because I chose what I was interested in.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like, oh yeah, you're good. I was just gonna say, it sounded like you said, well, I didn't know if I should choose the grade or something that interests me, but it kind of, you chose something that interested you, but you got the grade too, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing about the course is it doesn't penalize you for like me taking those risks. Like I was never penalized for them. And along the way of creating the documentary, we had you guys grading those weekly participation assignments, making sure that we were on track. And if we weren't, which I wasn't a lot of the time, you gave the critiques and brought us back in, and that certainly helped me a lot. So I mean, that was huge, not being penalized for the taking I feel like I use that word a lot, but creative risks. Yeah, because when you like write an essay, and there's a part of me in many classes where we have like maybe an argumentative essay, and I have like the idea of like a very, very basic idea. I'm like, oh, I could definitely write a well-structured argumentative essay in this way, and I could definitely get the grade. But what if I took like an extra hour and wrote it from the like opposing side, and it wrote an argument that I disagreed with and tried to make it as strong as possible? And if I did that in another class and wrote a terrible argument, or I completely failed, I mean, I would get penalized for that. And in this class, I wasn't. Instead, you guys would critique it, and we had the option to revise and resubmit. So that was definitely helpful.
Well, we're glad we were able to help you.
Yeah.
But so comparing your experience to when you like signed up for the course versus after you took it, did you like, were you impacted in any way, or did anything change? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I kind of changed the direction of my major. It made me strongly consider, for going on to get my master's, maybe doing something in addiction, or rarely do I take a class where it makes me rethink what I really want to do with my actual major, and a class that doesn't have anything to do with my major too. But this restructured how I kind of thought about graduate school, which is kind of weird to say that one class can do that, but it really did. And Professor Boucher and I had a few conversations about that as well. And I don't know, it was really interesting to be able to talk about all that. But I don't know if that answered the question.
that's good. No, that's good. I do have one, like maybe there might be like one or two questions after, but basically one final question.
For sure.
Let me see. So last semester, well, let me say for this semester, I'm Professor Boucher's ULA, and then Taylor's a pal of the program. Last semester when you took it, I was ULA, Taylor was a ULA, and Bella was the pal, which we had her on our team. But so this was our like instructional team. Do you feel like the way the way the ULAs are and the pals and the Professor Boucher, do you believe like our instructional team helps in any way, or do you feel like it's like too much? Like, how did you feel about that?
I really liked it. I mean, like I said about the feedback that we got on every weekly assignment, or participation assignment, that feedback, and on you guys allowing us to revise and resubmit, and then more feedback on top of that, it felt pretty personal for being in an online class. And I really like that, having that whole team, instead of having like my BS 162 course I'm taking right now. I mean, there's, I don't know how many ULAs or RA, or not RAs, but you know what I mean, that are assisting the professor and grading all of these assignments, but it doesn't feel very personal at all. I mean, they just give you the grade and no feedback, no revise, no resubmit. It actually felt like, you guys were there to help the students instead of, just the teacher. Like, you guys did both jobs equally well. So I like that. There isn't a whole lot that I didn't like about this course. I'm extremely biased, by the way.
No, yeah, that's good. That's why we chose to interview you. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, any like last thoughts just you have just for anyone that's thinking about taking this course, or anyone that is, like, any advice or anything?
Any advice or anything? Well, I definitely recommend anyone going to anyone and everyone going to MSU to take this course. That's for sure. Because it was so beneficial for me, and it is such a different type of course, as opposed to the normal gen eds. I don't know if you'd call it, but instead of like, out of all of the interdisciplinary courses that you could take, I would take this one for sure, because I think it'll help you kind of, at least it did for me, kind of give you direction in what you want to do. And if not, at least you get to take a really well structured, awesome course that's unlike most that you'll take in college. So yeah, I'd say take it. And I don't know, I think I said this earlier, but you get in, you get out what you put in. So that's pretty unique for a course too. And I would say put in as much effort as you have time to put in. So, because what you get out is pretty high in quality, I think.
So, but you said you think anyone and everyone should take this course then? You think?
Yeah, hands down. I mean,
well, gosh, I don't know how many films you think I should be able to grade, but no, I'm kidding.
Well, that was one thing too. I remember the week that you guys were, or the week after you guys had graded all of the films, Professor Boucher talked about how much time you guys actually spent on all of that. And I was like, holy shit. Oh my gosh. I don't know if any ULAs or TAs do that much work. Like it seemed insane. So I don't know if, there's going to be that hell week every single year for the professor and all the ULAs or TAs, but
I do actually want to, since we're talking about the films in the end of the semester, I did want to ask you one last question. This is it. I promise. Sorry.
For sure. No worries. Man.
The film festival. Like, what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on that whole process?
I thought it was a good motivator to instead of like, it wasn't just making a documentary for a class. Now it was, this is going to be, at least my thought at the time was, this is going to be looked at, it's going to be put online and looked at by actual judges or people, other than my professor, ULAs and TAs. And it could actually, the prize was just saying like, hey, you did a really good job. But it was just that extra motivator to produce some work. Unfortunately, I don't think I did, but I'm still, it was the motivator that pushed me to work more on that documentary. I think it's a really cool thing, and I kind of hope it gets more traction, because that would be pretty cool. I think even more students would want to take that course if it, if the course got known for the film festival at the end of the year. I haven't, heard of many or any courses doing that. So yeah.
Well, good. Well, thank you for taking the time to answer all these questions and being here. But yeah, thank you, Ryan, and whoever watches this. I hope you have a great day.
Yeah.